The matrix is open. Something in my head, I haven't been able to shake it since we spoke about the dream. In Victorian times, there was a fantasy many women were committing suicide in the Thames. Everything about the Thames at this time was masculine. Empire, Father Thames. Did fiction vectors lead to women's suicide? The wedding dress. The other night I was walking in the rain. There were some bedraggled Morris dancer musicians singing. There was another group led by a guide leader who was deaf. They had no instruments. They were in fairy dresses, like net wedding dresses. They were dancing in the rain but without any music. They were separate when they could have been together, learning to dance in the rain. I felt sad. They could have been making together, but they are separate. Learn to dance in the rain. An image of the Thames as a woman with a cloak, a large, long cloak, straining, and she's walking. The cloak is covered in heavy detritus, and it's being dragged down by the rubbish, and it's getting impossible for her to walk. It's all linking to octopi. I can see a shipwreck. Saline, Silver Tongue River between ebb and flow. There was a book I recall as a child in which the girl had the ability for second sight. When you looked at something like a pile of twigs, it became something like a cat's face. All these objects are alive objects rather than waste objects. A dream I had a long time ago. I'm walking along the river with my mum and we're picking slowberries. It was a lovely thing to dream, or was it to remember? We were picking them, but it might have been in real life. There's a small bee flying above the water. I'm lying on a bed made of old ship's timbers, made many years ago. I can just see mud. I'm staring at the river with no water. Between Richmond and Teddington locks. They drained it. Is it real, or did I imagine it? I'm dreaming about refilling all those bottles with wine and rum. Last night in a field there was an event, like a rally, a protest or festival. I felt lost and disconnected. I didn't know anyone. I had a feeling about there's not so many protests anymore. It was strange. I wasn't pleased this event was happening. I've got a compass. I've tied up my clothes with a thin red ribbon and I can't undo the knot. Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, a river of chocolate. There's grit in my mouth. Follow the path of the river and look for the kingfisher. I go down to Shepperton to meet an old school friend who's driving a narrowboat up the Thames. Later he writes a poem about the differences between a narrowboat and a barge, but I'm not clear about the differences. So much water. I'm struggling to open the lock, but it's way too heavy. Flick, flick, flick of an old vinyl LP record that's finished playing, but the needle is still in the middle of the record and is still going around. I can see chewing gum on the bottom of a chair. I am in my hometown. On the East Riverbank sits a contemporary art museum. In the Spanish Civil War, it was used for incarcerating gays and sexually violent men. They were executed there. Remains of bullet holes were covered up by the right-wing party. I felt very offended by this. So much cold water. A television programme about the Thames Estuary, and a piece of electronic music, part electronic music and part not music. I can't remember who it's by. I'm stumbling from a squat party, drunk, talking to some men. They were fishing for eels. I was amazed there were eels in the Thames. They said they keep them in their bath and sell them to people. Skyscrapers from the City of London floating down the Thames Estuary from the city. The Woolwich Ferry has only one boat, and the Woolwich Foot Tunnel has only one lift. Did the CIA really sink that ship of red buses that lays under the Thames? A whole ship of red buses going to Cuba. A wife went walking along the River Lee, fell in and drowned. What's the most expensive thing lost in the river right now? My dad dreamt about a train in the water. People long ago coming to the Thames and dying of a disease. Pocahontas, Gravesend, a poet whose name escapes me. My feet are buried in the sand. I'm wearing flip-flops, feeling, watching, the water washing over them. How much does the Thames weigh? Just as I'm worrying, the diesel is blackening the bottom of my boat. A group of kids skid past. I'm imagining all the teddies and creatures on the table getting together. Thames barges are shaped that way to take the waste. The duck bus. I can see the Thames completely clean, completely transparent. I did see the Thames completely transparent. I think the teddies are pushing everything off the table. Who was that man who built the Thames barrier that Alexei Sayle talked about? Hello, John. Got a new motor? Slaves and sailors passing through the Thames after the... Matsuko calls for my password and for my account. I've put the ashes of many friends into the Thames. I need to do my dogs soon. There's a monument at Galway to all the migrants in the Great Famine who went to the USA. All the ships' names are scratched into it. The voices outside the room make me feel underwater. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Richard. Happy birthday to you. It's my birthday. My name is Richard. Dr. Feelgood down by the jetty. There's a 30-foot statue of the lead singer at the end of Southend Pier. I don't think Shakespeare invented the word bubble. Cellars of red wine. The first time Graham took me on a boat, all the injuries I suffered. The delicious taste of watercress. What happened in the docks at Poplar? Now it's all filled in by office blocks. Making a fire out of driftwood on a Thames beach. The tide comes up and slowly puts it out. Those burnt bits, what are they, and why are they black? You find them all over the beach. The estuary where the tide comes across from the Atlantic around Scotland and meets the outgoing tide of the Thames estuary. When the sun and the moon are in the right place, you get the biggest tides of all. Poor little monkey, clinging to driftwood. That's how menageries began. Sailors weren't allowed to bring animals into the port of London. They had to set them adrift before they landed. I hope they made it to the shore and were rescued. Rob coming back from South America with a parrot on his shoulder. Pleasure ship sinking, killing 600. Princess Alice at Crossness. Scottish fishermen's wives carry their husbands onto the shore so that they don't get their clothes wet. I'm thinking about my mother's journey on the Windrush from the Caribbean and how she felt when first touching land here. I feel very, very sad. A pocket watch that must be pawned to pay for the grandchildren. I tried to watch what was on TV. Floods and global warming, privatised water companies and turds. I feel the chilblains in my fingers ready to come out. I don't know how people can swim in the Thames on a winter's day. In winter, it's amazingly comforting to piss on your own hands. If you are a man, not necessarily. What if it freezes again? Dangling my fingers in the water over the edge of a boat at 5 knots. "40,000 Brent geese come here between the 23rd of September every year." My first boat journey was on the Jenny Wren on the Regent's Canal when I was at school. My bike attached by my foot in the Regent's Canal. Being sick on a boat, the shadows of light swirling tree branches reflected on my yellow bathroom wall. I wonder if it's dark outside when I open my eyes. A hopeful place is Lee Tip. Lots of wild herbs grow there, and you have the possibility to use them to heal yourself as the health service is so shit. The Matrix is now closed.